Hey everyone, it's Alexander Robinson. Welcome to the channel. So we have a new Fantastic Four movie coming out later this month. It seems like we get one of these movies every 10 years, but there's more excitement for this one because this is actually Marvel Studios making Fantastic Four, not 20th Century Fox or Constantine Films. So there's a lot more excitement to see what Marvel can actually do. And I hope it's good. I legitimately hope that it is a good movie and not just, well, it's good in comparison to the other Fantastic Four movies because, yeah, those others are not good, and that's me being nice. But you know what? In celebration, I guess, of the release of Fantastic Four First Steps, why don't we go over those other Fantastic Four movies? And we're going to kick off this series in an interesting way because this is my retro review for the Fantastic Four, which came out in 1994. At least it was supposed to come out in 1994. This is the infamous Roger Corman produced Fantastic Four movie that never got an official release. And it basically follows the origin of the Fantastic Four. We get to see how Reed Richards, Sue Storm, Johnny Storm, and Ben Grimm get into their accident that transformed them into Mr. Fantastic, the Invisible Woman, the Human Torch, and the Thing, forming the Fantastic Four. And this also involves them fighting off Mole Man and Dr. Victor Von Doom. Now, I've only reviewed one Fantastic Four movie on this channel, and that was the 2015 version directed by Josh Trank. And I will actually be doing an updated review for that movie later on in the month before we get to First Steps. But in terms of the Fantastic Four movies that I have seen, this is the only one that I have not watched up until now. And that goes for a majority of people because of its unique distinction of being unreleased. So this is the only movie on the channel that I've reviewed to not get an official release, and it'll be the only time I review a movie that has been unreleased. This movie is infamous for its status of being unreleased. And I'll talk about that in more detail of why this movie never got an official release, because it's actually really fascinating if you don't know the history. I highly encourage you to all watch the documentary Doom. You can find it on YouTube, but it basically goes into the history of this movie and why it never got an official release. But as a movie itself, I went into this thinking, okay, it's an unreleased Fantastic Four movie. The previous three movies have been terrible. So how bad does this movie have to be to where it never got an official release? But now that I've actually seen this version of Fantastic Four, it says a lot about the Fox-produced movies that they are worse than the movie that was made for $1 million and never got an official release. This isn't a good movie, I'm gonna say that right now, but in terms of all the Fantastic Four movies that we've gotten so far, this is easily the best one. The reason this is the best Fantastic Four movie that we have, as of now, is because there's a sense of earnesty from everyone involved making this movie. Because this movie is so cheap, there's not really any studio interference. Roger Corman is very well known for cranking these movies out as quickly and cheaply as possible. He's basically a cheaper version of Jason Blum. And when you watch this version of Fantastic Four, you can kind of tell that the cast is enjoying themselves, they're into it, there seems to be a lot of effort to make this movie the best that it can possibly be, despite costing only $1 million. For example, the suits, I think, are very faithful to how the standard Fantastic Four suits look. The animatronic for the Thing is actually very impressive. Granted, the Thing isn't bulked up and super muscular like he is in the comics or the other movies, but the animatronic work is actually right up there with the work that Jim Henson's team did for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles in the early 90s. It's that good and costs that much less than those movies did. There's also a sense of corniness to this movie that I find admirable. There's no studio interference with this film. It was specifically from Roger Corman and the creative team. And whether it's the cheap-looking special effects like Reed Richards' extension of his hands, the cheap costumes, some of the other cheap visual effects, I just watch this movie and go, yeah, it's not good, but I kind of like it for what it is, and at points it gave me vibes of the 1990 Captain America movie. Now, this is a far better movie because I think there's more earnesty going into making this unreleased Fantastic Four movie than there was going into the 1990 Captain America. Now, like I said earlier, the movie is not good. I more admire this movie than anything, but putting all the admiration aside, this movie is a mess. It does look cheap, sure, but I'm not going to hold that against this movie considering how little it costs. No, my main issues more come in the first half. It's pretty confusing to follow at points. There are a lot of sequences that don't make a lot of sense. And also, there are some corny things about this movie that aren't really admirable in the sense that they're eye-rolling, like how they came up with the name of the Fantastic Four. It's basically Sue and Johnny's mom looking at the two of them with Reed Richards and Ben Grimm before they're about to go on their mission and go, "Look at you, the Fantastic Four." And I'm just like, really? That's what we're doing? Like, for all of you that complained about in Captain Marvel when Nick Fury got the idea for the name Avengers because that was Carol Danvers' call sign, this is worse than that. If I may briefly go back to the special effects, the one moment that really had me laughing is when we get to see the full extent of Johnny's power, where he flames on and is trying to stop this beam, and the CG is hilarious. Again, $1 million budget, I'm not going to hold that against this movie, but I just found the effect to be absolutely hilarious, where it's clearly a super 90s CGI model. It reminded me of in Community Season 6 when the Dean goes into that virtual reality world, but it's just a terrible, like, early 90s virtual world, and he occasionally goes, "Jesus wept!" That's what that sequence in Fantastic Four reminded me of. Like, I almost expected Johnny Storm to accomplish something and he goes, "Galactus wept!" Like I said earlier, this is not a good movie, but there's a lot to admire about it. The way it was made, the fact that even though this movie looks cheap and was cheap, they really did spend every single cent that they had. And the cast is actually trying their best. All the actors do a decent job and honestly fit the roles of the Fantastic Four better than the actors that would go on to play them in the Fox movies. Now we get to the ultimate question of the movie. Why was this never released? If you know the history of this movie, you already know the answer to that, but for those of you that don't, the idea was that the producer of this movie, whose production company was Constantine Films, they were the company that would eventually go on to do all the other Fantastic Four movies up to the 2015 one. He and Constantine Films got the rights from Marvel. They wanted to do a movie on the level of Tim Burton's Batman, where it cost around $30 million, but they couldn't raise the money to do it, and they were approaching the rights deadline, because if they got to that deadline, then the rights go back to Marvel. So the producer approached Roger Corman to produce a $1 million Fantastic Four movie on the cheap as quickly as possible. The producer actually had no intention of getting this movie released, and he kept that secret from Roger Corman and everybody in the cast and crew. The barest minimum that had to be done was make sure that the movie was in production before that rights deadline. So while the movie was being made, Constantine Films approached people like Chris Columbus and some of the higher-ups at Marvel to actually try to get the actual Fantastic Four movie made. So basically, putting this movie into production gave him more time to try to make the actual movie that he wanted to make. The documentary Doomed goes more into this, but the bottom line is, Avi Arad eventually found out that the movie was going to have a premiere at the Mall of America, and he heard it secondhand from a fan who told Avi Arad that they were excited to see the premiere at the Mall of America for Fantastic Four, and Avi Arad basically went, "What premiere at the Mall of America? What Fantastic Four movie?" So he found out. He actually paid to make sure the movie didn't get released. It was nearly complete, it was ready to go, but it all just went to hell. The movie never got a release. And I don't remember who said this, but according to the documentary, the reason that there was no plan to release the Roger Corman Fantastic Four movie is because Fantastic Four is considered a viable franchise, and they didn't want to taint the water with the unreleased film. And I'm just sitting there going, oh really? You don't want to taint the image of the Fantastic Four with one movie? Oh, God forbid that ever happens. And as for it being a viable franchise, yeah, let's travel back 10 years and talk to the executives at 20th Century Fox and see how viable Fantastic Four is to them. Again, I encourage you all to watch the documentary Doomed, because if I were to give a rating for that documentary, it's worth seeing in your lifetime. It is a really fascinating look at this legendary movie. Now, as for the movie itself, I say watch at your own risk. Again, it's not good, but the fact that it was just made on the cheap and with people that were really giving it their all, you can't hate it. There's some admiration to the movie, but as a movie itself, it's not great. But it says a lot that this is currently the best Fantastic Four movie that we have. And there you go, that's my review for the unreleased Fantastic Four movie from Roger Corman. Now, obviously, this thing of making a Fantastic Four movie before rights deadline is not a once-in-a-while thing, because that's what plagued the other movies. So next week, we're actually going to be going into that other movie that was made because of a rights deadline, 2005's Fantastic Four. Now, because we are so close to the release of First Steps, I'm actually going to be reviewing both Tim Story Fantastic Four movies within days of each other. My review for the 2005 movie will be up next Wednesday, and then my review for Rise of the Silver Surfer will go up literally the next day on that Thursday. So keep your eyes open for my reviews for those two movies. For now, I want to thank you guys so much for watching this video, and I want to give a special thank you to my subscribers and YouTube members right over here. You guys are the reason why this channel continues to grow every day, and if you want to help to financially support the channel, you could do so via YouTube memberships for as little as $1.99 a month. But until next time, I want to know what you guys think about Roger Corman's Fantastic Four movie. Whatever your opinions are, let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell button to get notifications. If you want to find me elsewhere on the internet, you can find me on these social media platforms and my theme park and travel channel right here on YouTube. I'll see you guys in the next video, but until then, have a good day and take care of yourselves.